Most of us are too busy in the morning to make breakfast, but what if you could do it in just 2 minutes? The trick is by meal prepping your breakfast ahead of time and freezing it so that way you could quickly reheat it for a grab and go meal. I have 3 easy high protein breakfast recipes. I'll be sharing the nutrition facts of each of these recipes, and in the end, we'll be putting them up against their grocery store counterparts to see which of them not only has more protein, but also tastes better. The first thing we're making is our high protein pancakes. First thing we're gonna be grabbing is a high-sided container and an immersion blender. If you don't have an immersion blender, don't worry, it's all good. You could just use a regular blender, or you could use a food processor as well, either or. Now in our high-sided container, we're gonna toss in 3 whole eggs, and I like to crack my eggs in a separate, smaller container, so that way when there's eggshells in it, it's easy for me to scoop out. I'm also gonna throw in 1/4 of a cup of milk, 1 tablespoon of maple syrup or honey, depending what kind of sweetener you want, 2 tablespoons of melted unsalted butter, 1 teaspoon of vanilla paste or vanilla extract, and 1 cup of cottage cheese, which I've recently fallen in love with cottage cheese. I used to think it was gross and disgusting, but it actually tastes amazing. You can incorporate it in your cooking very easily. Now the cottage cheese is the reason why we're gonna be blending everything together. If you can find smooth cottage cheese, then use that and skip the blending, but most of the time you'll have to blend it. After giving it a quick 30-second to 1-minute blending, you should have a very smooth, not chunky at all, liquid base. We just incorporated all of our wet ingredients, and now let's move on to our dry ingredients. So in a medium-sized bowl, we're gonna throw in 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, half a scoop of protein powder. I'm using this vanilla protein powder, and we're technically using the scooper that comes with it, so 2 of those scoops, which is basically half a cup. Lastly, we're gonna throw in half a teaspoon of salt, and then with a whisk, we're gonna whisk everything together, fully incorporating the dry ingredients nice and evenly. Now I'm gonna pour our wet ingredients into our dry ingredients, and then I'm gonna whisk them all together until we get a nice cohesive batter. Now this is a thicker batter, so if you want it to be a little thinner, you could put in 1 to 2 tablespoons of milk, which I actually put in 1 tablespoon of milk just to loosen it up a little bit. From here, we're gonna grab ourselves a medium-sized non-stick pan, set it to medium heat, and we're gonna now cook our pancakes. I'll hit it with a little bit of spray oil, and then I'm gonna put in just enough batter to get the right size pancake that I want. Be wary, because the batter should spread out a little bit. After cooking one side for about 3 minutes, we're gonna give it a flip and cook the other side for just 2 minutes. If you want lighter colored pancakes, then you need to cook them low and slow. But if you're like me, you're gonna get pretty impatient and you wanna speed up the process, so your pancakes will start getting darker and darker. So use whatever heat your patience is best optimized for. I am gonna stack these pancakes on top of one another, but with a sheet of parchment paper in between so they don't freeze together. And I'm gonna throw them in a Ziploc bag and toss them in the freezer. Now to reheat these pancakes, all you have to do is just grab one of our pancakes, throw it on a plate, and then throw it in the oven and set it for 2 minutes. 2 minutes later, you have a fully reheated and hot, ready to eat high protein pancake. Now let's talk about the nutrition of these pancakes. My batch made 4 pretty large shaped pancakes, and those 4 pancakes total to about 75 grams of protein, which means each pancake has a whopping 19 grams of protein. And for calories, it's roughly 196 calories per pancake. Now let's put that up against our grocery store option, which is this Cottage pancake. I don't know how to pronounce it. This box here says a serving size is 3 flapjacks, which are a little smaller than mine, coming in at 210 calories at 16 grams of protein. So it looks like my pancakes have a little bit more protein, but they also have more calories as well, which I'll take that calorie difference any day of the week, knowing that I made these pancakes from scratch and I kind of know all the ingredients that's in them. But now let's do the most important test, which is to see who tastes better. That sounds weird. Which is to see which one tastes better. First one up is the store-bought pancake. Admittedly not terrible. I would say it is a little grainy, but it tastes like a pancake. Especially that's a high protein pancake. I feel like this is pretty good actually. But now let's try my protein pancake. Okay, there's a noticeable difference here, hold on. Yeah, without a doubt, mine tastes way better. It's significantly fluffier, there's a lot more flavor to it, and it's just a better pancake all around. And I want to clarify, the store-bought one isn't really bad, but the homemade one is just significantly better. If you didn't tell me these were frozen and then reheated in the microwave, I would not think that. These taste like freshly made pancakes. You know, they've just been reheated. Now let's get to work on making our delicious high-protein egg bites. Now the first thing we're gonna do is head on over to our oven and set it to 350 degrees convection bake. From here, we're gonna grab our high-sided container and immersion blender or a regular blender or food processor, whatever you have. Now in our container, we're gonna toss in 8 whole eggs and be sure to remove the shells before throwing them in your container. Along with it, we're gonna throw in 1 cup of cottage cheese, 1 tablespoon of nutritional yeast, which I'm not fully sure what this stuff is, but I do know it's good for you and it gives the eggs a nice cheesy flavor as well. Lastly, we're gonna throw in half a teaspoon of kosher salt. Now I'm gonna stick my immersion blender in there and give it a nice 30-second to 1-minute blending just to really break up all the cottage cheese and the eggs and make it nice and silky smooth. From here, I'm gonna grab myself a silicone muffin tray or a regular muffin tray, whatever you have. I like the silicone one because it's easier to pop out the egg bites later. I am gonna put a sheet tray underneath the silicone mat just to make it easier to move in and out of the oven. I'm gonna hit it with a little bit of spray oil and then I'm gonna pour our egg mixture in each of the molds about halfway to 3/4 up. Be careful not to over pour it because it will expand and it could overflow off the sides, which is another reason why the sheet tray is especially important. After the eggs are poured in, we're next going to give it a pinch of some chopped spinach. I used about 1 cup of baby spinach and I just ran my knife through it until I got nice small pieces and just give it a good hearty pinch in each little mold. After the spinach, we're next going to give it a small little pinch of minced sun-dried tomatoes. I chopped up about 1/3 cup, which is about 4 to 5 pieces of them, and I just ran my knife through it a few times until I got it a nice decent little mincing. After you've evenly sprinkled out the sun-dried tomatoes, I'm gonna next give it a little mixing just to disperse those ingredients together because they could be sitting on the top. And lastly, we're gonna give it a nice pinch of some freshly grated mozzarella cheese. And freshly grating does make a huge difference. I probably use like 1/4 to maybe 1/3 of this whole block of cheese here. Once there's a nice little cheese layer on top, we're gonna now throw this in our oven that's set to 350 degrees for about 12 to 15 minutes. So I actually ended up leaving them in the oven for about 18 minutes and then I'm gonna take them out and let them sit on the counter for 5 minutes. This will really help them come together and hold the structure of that like muffin egg bite shape. After the 5 minutes, I'm gonna plate them up, sprinkle some parsley, and now you have delicious high protein egg bites. These guys blew my mind how delicious they tasted, but even more importantly, they freeze super easily in a Ziploc bag and they can be reheated on the fly. Now to reheat these egg bites, all you gotta do is just take them out of the freezer, throw them in the microwave for just 2 minutes, and then after the 2 minutes, you have a ready to eat hot, high protein egg bite. For the nutrition facts, this recipe makes about 12 egg bites with a grand total of 88 grams of protein, which means per egg bite, there are around 7 grams of protein in them. And for the calories, there's about 78 calories in them. For our grocery store competitor, we're gonna be going up against Veggie Made, which is a brand that I actually personally really like and I've had a lot of times. This is their tomato basil frittata with mozzarella. I don't know if I said that right. But you can see per serving is 1 portion and that's about 5 grams of protein and 80 calories. So my egg bite version has about 2 more grams of protein and 2 calories less. So not a crazy lot amount, but still a difference. Now let's see how they taste. All right, so I'm a little bit of an idiot. I accidentally forgot to hit record on my camera, so you guys totally just missed the tasting. But I'm gonna just relay the message. So I actually personally liked both of them pretty much equally as much. I couldn't decide which one tasted better, so I had my girlfriend come in to decide for me, and she said mine hands down. I will admit, these guys are delicious, but they do have a little wateriness. I don't know how to describe it, but they just like, they stay a little watery and you kind of need to air fry them to to get a drier, better egg taste. That being said, I do love that box brand. I eat them all the time, and I don't think you're going wrong choosing either my recipe or the box recipe. But if you're similar to my girlfriend, you'll probably like this homemade version much more. For our third and last recipe, we're making high-protein mixed berry muffins. We'll first head on over to our oven and set it to 350 degrees convection bake, and then we're gonna grab ourselves our high-sided container and immersion blender. In our high-sided container, we're gonna throw in 3 whole eggs, as well as 3/4 of a cup of cottage cheese, 1/3 of a cup of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla paste or extract. I'm gonna stick my immersion blender in there, give it a solid 30-second to 1-minute blending just to incorporate all that cottage cheese and other liquids. Now this is our wet mixture, and now we're gonna get to work on our dry mixture. In a medium-sized bowl, we're gonna throw in 1 cup and 1/4 of a cup of almond flour, 1/2 a cup of protein powder, which again is 2 1/4 scoops of this protein powder I use, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1/2 a teaspoon of sea salt. Now with the whisk, I'm gonna whisk all the dry ingredients together, making sure they're evenly dispersed. And then I'm gonna grab our wet ingredients and pour them into the dry ingredients, mixing it thoroughly until everything's nicely combined. Once everything is nicely mixed together, you should have a beautiful thick batter that's gonna be the base of our muffins. The last thing we're gonna do for this batter is toss in 1/2 a cup of red raspberries and 1/2 a cup of blue raspberries that have been chopped. All I did was just split them in half and then split them in half again, or if they're really long, just cut them in half twice more. And when you mix them in, be very careful not to bruise them. Just try to fold them into the batter. So just scrape the sides and fold them into the dough nice and evenly without bruising them too much. Now from here, I'm gonna grab our sheet tray and our muffin mold that we use for the egg recipe. I'm gonna hit the mold with a little bit of avocado oil, and then I'm gonna dollop some of our batter in each of the molds. Once you've filled up the molds with all of our batter, we next have to just bake them. So I'm gonna throw them in our oven that's been preheated at 350 degrees for around 20 to 30 minutes. About 25 minutes later, I'm gonna check on them and I'm gonna take them out of the molds here, but I'm gonna be honest here, I think they're slightly not baked enough. You'll see I'm having a hard time taking them out of the mold, and then they're kind of soft and not really crispy around the edges. I'm assuming it's mostly because I'm using a silicone mold and not a metal muffin tin, which will bring more heat into the muffins themselves and give you more crispiness. So around 25 minutes should be plenty of time for you if you're using a muffin tin, but if you're using silicone molds, maybe do like 30 minutes to really try bringing a little bit more crispiness to it. I'm gonna let them cool and release all that steam on a wire rack, and then I'm gonna put them in a freezer bag and throw them in the freezer to freeze for whenever I need them. Now to heat up these muffins, they're gonna be exactly the same as our other 2 recipes. Just take a piece, throw it in the microwave for 2 minutes, and now you have a piping hot, fresh, high protein muffin. This recipe makes about 12 muffins, and for the nutritional facts, it has about 91 grams of protein. Each muffin has about 7.5 grams of protein and about 183-ish calories. For the store-bought version, we're gonna be going up against, once again, the Veggie Made Great brand. Their muffins are honestly pretty good, I'm not gonna lie, and they have about 120 calories per muffin and 3 grams of protein. So my muffin definitely has about double the protein, but it also has more calories as well. But let's see how they taste. All right, first one up is the store-bought version. Okay, they're good, but admittingly kind of very dry, which is, I guess, kind of happens when it comes to like reheating baked goods. Let's see though my version to see if I have the same problem. Mine are 100% fluffier and not nearly as dry as the store-bought brand, but I will say I am not a professional baker by all means, and it tastes good, don't get me wrong, it tastes actually delicious, but I think it's missing a few things. For a quick high protein breakfast, I think this is delicious and way better than buying, you know, a bunch of store-bought frozen stuff, but it could definitely be a little better. I need to improve my baking skills just a little bit more. So I accidentally forgot to do the outro, but if you want more high protein recipes, check out my high protein chicken pizza. It's really good and it's also pretty good for you. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe button and have a wonderful rest of your day.